You're listening to Missing Persons, brought to you by AbJack Entertainment. Be sure to check out some of the other great true crime podcasts from this network, including The Murder in My Family,
DNA ID,
Scene of the Crime, 3 Men and a Mystery,
All Things Crime,
and
Zodiac Speaking.
All of these podcasts are available for you to binge on right now, wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe where you're listening to this podcast so you don't miss an episode.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast do not necessarily represent those of the podcast, its creators, or sponsors. If you would like to discuss a missing persons case on this podcast, please be sure to visit missingpersonspodcast.net. This episode may contain unsettling or disturbing subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Missing Persons, a podcast dedicated to spreading the word about people who have vanished under mysterious or unexplained circumstances and the family members who are looking for answers. I'm Jess Betancourt.
And I'm Mike Morford. Together we created this podcast to help give a voice to people who continue to look for their missing loved ones. In some cases, even after decades have gone by. In each episode, you'll hear from Jess giving listeners the backstory and the basic facts of the disappearance.
Then Mike will speak with someone who's intimately connected to the missing person, and his guest will share their story with us.
Please stay tuned at the conclusion of this episode to hear about our Patreon program and our commitment to help find people who have gone missing. We'll also share with you where you can find more information and how you can join our team and help our efforts. You'll get recommendations for other podcasts we think you'll enjoy, and more.
So sit back and enjoy this episode, and who knows, maybe you can help us find someone who's missing. Episode 32, Linda Barnett. In July 2020, Linda K. Barnett was a 38-year-old woman living in San Jacinto, Texas, near Amarillo. Linda resided with her boyfriend Charles on South Kentucky Street between Southwest 5th Avenue and Southwest 6th Avenue. They had only lived in the area for about half a year, and Linda did not have friends or family in the area. She had some health struggles and was on prescription medication that she relied on. She walked with a limp due to nerve damage in her leg, and she also wore glasses. Linda had also had some battles with drug addiction in her life. Linda was very close with her family and normally spoke with her mom on the phone several times a day, but she last spoke to her mom on July 5th. After that, when her mom and sister tried to get in touch with her, there was never any answer on Linda's cell phone. When the family tried to call Charles's cell, it was shut off. They finally managed to get in touch with Charles, and he told them and then told the police that he and Linda had had an argument on Sunday, July 5th, and Linda had left the house and never come back. But she didn't take any of her things with her. She didn't take her ID, wallet, purse, car keys, or her medications. The only thing she took when she left, according to her boyfriend Charles, was his cell phone. That cell phone has never been found. A formal missing persons report about Linda was filed on July 8th, but police did not commence searches for her for 10 days. And unfortunately, Linda's boyfriend Charles's story to police has changed slightly. Remember, he initially said that they had an argument and Linda left. But that story evolved to where he took a nap and she left while he was asleep. This from KMAR. Quote, "She walked away from the house where she lived with her boyfriend. They've been together for several years," said Sergeant Fisher. "Either there was an argument or something took place. He fell asleep, woke up, and Linda was gone." Even the police aren't clear what the story is, but they don't seem to be placing the blame on Charles. Per KFDA, quote, "The detectives have been in contact with him. He's cooperated fully, so there's no reason for us to believe at this point that he had anything to do with her disappearance, other than just being the last person to see her," Corporal Jeb Hilton, Public Information Officer for Amarillo PD, said. Furthermore, Sergeant Fisher, who is the detective in charge of the investigation, seems to believe that Linda left the house on her own. This per KFDA, quote, "I haven't seen any red flags at this moment. The only concern is that Linda is still missing and no one has seen her, and that is our main concern," said Fisher. "I feel that either she got a ride from somebody saw her that day, somebody saw something and have just not come forward yet, or they're afraid to come forward," Linda's sister Carolyn Turner, who is our guest today, does not agree that Linda left of her own accord. She is frustrated by the investigation. She said to KFDA about her sister, quote, "She spoke to her mom every single day. She's not just going to up and disappear and decide one day she doesn't want to speak to her mother. She had funds going into her checking account that she depended on to live on every single month that she has not touched. So something's happened to her." Carolyn believes that Charles, who was known to have a temper and was heard arguing loudly with Linda right before she vanished, knows more than he is saying. He eventually changed the phone number on Linda's cell phone so the family could not reach him. According to Linda's family, Charles has not cooperated with the investigation, has refused to speak with police, and has refused to take a polygraph exam. Police have followed up on a number of tips concerning sightings of Linda, but they have come to nothing. According to her live-in boyfriend Charles, Linda Barnett was last seen wearing a multicolored striped shirt and black and gray camouflage pants. She is 5'2" and weighs around 100 pounds. Mike Morford sat down with Linda's sister Carolyn Turner to talk about her sister's case. That conversation is coming up after a word from our sponsors.
I'm Jared Bradley, host of the new podcast, All Things Crime. I've been working with law enforcement, crime labs, criminal attorneys, and other investigative specialists for years, expanding their ability to collect forensics DNA from evidence and use that to solve more crime. Along the way, I've met thousands of professionals who have insights into crime and the investigative process that are beyond fascinating. I've set out to document those insights, give them a voice. In All Things Crime, you'll hear experiences from crime scene investigators, homicide detectives, seasoned patrol officers, defense attorneys, and even some victims, falsely imprisoned, and even criminals. Join us in this amazing journey as we explore, expose, and educate all things crime.
Hi, Carolyn, and thanks for coming on Missing Persons to discuss your sister Linda's case with us.
Hi.
It's good to have you here, and I hope we can help spread the word about Linda's case. We're recording this in July 2021, and it's just after the 1-year anniversary of your sister going missing. How hard has this last year been on you and your family?
It's been extremely difficult. We're hitting one brick wall after another. We're really not getting anywhere at this point.
As of now, being a year later, where does the case stand? Where are things at right now?
Pretty much the same place it was a year prior. The detective did call my mom this morning, and they said that because the one person that was last to see her it was her boyfriend. They lived together. He was evicted from their residence, and they couldn't locate him. But they recently have located where he moved to in Amarillo, so they're going to be able to question him once again to see if his story changes.
A good place to obviously look is when someone goes missing, they're going to look at people close to them and sort of work their way out from there. And before we get into the details surrounding Linda going missing, can you talk to us a little bit about her? Tell us about who she is and what was going on in her life leading up to her going missing.
Well, she did have several things going wrong in her life. He led her down the path of alcohol and drugs, and so she was no angel by no means, but she's still a mother, a sister, and a daughter. So to me, none of that really would matter. But she was one of those types of people where she would love with all she had if you loved her. She also had, mental problems as well as health problems.
So was it safe to say that maybe she was reliant or dependent maybe on people to help keep her on the right path?
Yes.
And you mentioned some of that stuff sort of went off the right path and maybe down a path that she shouldn't have gone down with drugs and alcohol and stuff. Did that play a big role leading up to her disappearance? Were there any problems surrounding that, or any issues that happened right before she went missing?
Yes, primarily, her and her boyfriend would argue quite often. And the neighbor said the day before she went missing, or was told she was missing, they were arguing pretty bad. She could hear it. That's how loud it was. But that was pretty much typical for his temper. He would yell at her every time. Well, when he would drink, he would yell at her. And the story that he's given is the day that she went missing, he was drinking and she got mad about it because she didn't want to drink, so she left. That was the first story that he gave.
So his story was changing, and was about to ask you, but it sounds like that's what you're about to say, that it did change.
Yes. So then the next story was that he told the police. That's the story he told my mom, how she went missing. The story he told the police was they got into an argument. He went to sleep. When he woke up, she was gone.
Was that like her? Did she, anytime there was an argument, did she usually storm off or walk out to go cool off or anything? Was that something that was believable?
I mean, she's done it once, but not several times. And then when she does do it, she makes sure she has a house key, her phone, her wallet, money. She didn't have any of that. Instead, she took his phone, no keys, no wallet, no money.
So it's as if she just left the house, not planning anything, and didn't take anything that she would want.
Yes. Everything that she would need, she left.
Yeah, and that included medication, is that correct?
All of her medication, yes.
Yeah, and she had medication for different conditions, medical things. And that's something she relied on, to that medication, to help her through that stuff.
That's correct. Well, she took medicine for multiple things. She had diabetes. She had liver issues. So she had to depend on the medicine. She was actually pretty ill because a couple of months before that, she was released from the hospital, and the missing persons detective said that the hospital, since are getting hospice care to come out, and they'd never set it up to where hospice would come out to help take care of her. So that's why we're finding it hard to believe that she got up and walked off when hospice was supposed to come out and take care of her.
Yeah, because I guess for hospice to come out, you have to be really ill for that to happen.
That's correct.
Let's go back to when you found out she was missing. How was it that you or anyone in your family found out that Linda was actually missing?
The way we found out is my mom talks to Linda every day. Well, she talked to her on the 3rd. She didn't talk to her on the 4th. So she called her on the 5th. When she called her on the 5th, that's when Charles told her that she's missing, and he thinks something really bad's happened this time because she didn't come back. So I asked my mom, because my mom called and told me about it, and I said, well, did anybody file a missing persons report? And he didn't have a report filed. He called the police and just told them that she wasn't there when he woke up. So then the police was sent back out to his home on the 8th of July to do the missing persons report.
So on one hand, he did report her missing early on, but the police didn't do any kind of official type of report at first.
Right.
How seriously do you think that the police took it at first? I've read some comments that maybe you don't think they treated her case with as much respect as they could have, maybe because she had some issues with drugs or alcohol. Do you feel that they sort of dismissed the seriousness of her case?
Oh, wholeheartedly I do, because of the community that she lived in. was known for stuff, as far as drug use and alcohol use. And the police didn't like that community in that town. The San, I think it's called San Jacinto or something like that. That's what they call it. It's called a community within that town. But they didn't take it serious because they didn't do anything. They didn't conduct a search. They didn't do anything. They didn't do anything. She was reported, actually, a report was done on the 8th. They didn't do anything as far as trying to physically search until like the 18th of July.
Yeah, that's disappointing. Those first days are crucial in a missing persons case. 10 days later is a big difference.
Right. It's a very big difference because those first couple of days, if they would have made it, more publicly known and got it out there to media, maybe somebody that seen something could have said something then, but now nobody will speak. It's like it never happened.
Now, there are some reports out there that say that Linda was seen on July 5th on South Kentucky Street, between Southwest Avenue and Southwest 6th Avenue. Is that accurate, and was that close to her house?
That is close to her house, but I think that was just something that one of the neighbors or someone said, but I don't think it's accurate. I don't think it was ever followed up on.
So there's no confirmation that the person seen was actually
there is
your sister.
No confirmation, no.
Yeah. And you went back, you mentioned that your mom talked to Linda every day. The last time she did actually speak to her, was there any sign that something was wrong? Any clue that, Linda might be in trouble or might want to leave? Anything like that?
When she last spoke to my mom, she was at the bank. And she told my mom she didn't feel good, but she had to get some money out of the bank. And that was, she said she had to pay the rent because the rent was due. And then that was the last time my mom spoke to her.
So nothing really out of the ordinary, just the typical talk about going to the bank, taking money out for the rent, that kind of thing. Nothing saying she was in trouble or she was worried about anything.
No, I don't believe that any of that took place with the conversation she had with my mom. It was just a short conversation that she was at the bank getting her money and she was not feeling good that day. And that was pretty much the sum of it.
So when you found out early on that she was missing, obviously the police didn't really do anything for that 10-day period or whatever it was, but did your family go searching for her or calling around or talking to friends to find out if they had seen Linda?
Well, me and my mom drove to Amarillo, Texas, because we live in Arkansas. We don't live in Texas. So we went to Texas. I paid to have some flyers printed to hand out. And me and my mom and a couple other people, because nobody in that community will help the police or do anything to help you. So a couple people showed up to help us search for my sister. So we walked those streets and checked the homeless camps and went to local businesses to see if they'd seen her, canvassed that complete area, handing out flyers and posting our flyer of her. And then I got with another person by the name of Karen, which is a missing persons advocate. And she created a Facebook page for me, and she's been trying to get stuff out there for her as well.
And despite your efforts, there was nothing, no one seen anything, nobody reported anything about seeing her?
No. And I personally contacted the news stations to get the story on the news.
And again, do you feel that was because the police sort of put it on the back burner and said, we're not going to give this thing the full attention that it deserves?
Oh, wholeheartedly. I believe that. I believe to this day that if they would have given this case the attention that it deserved, then we might have had at least one good lead, or someone might have spoke up, or they might have question Charles a little bit harder. I mean, I don't know if he did or didn't do something to her, but she's had no friends in Texas. They hadn't lived there that long. They moved there in December 2019. She went missing July 2020.
And before that, where had they lived?
They lived in Colorado briefly, but before that, they lived in Fort Smith, where her family is.
So they were new there. You mentioned there's no real ties, no places she would go, people she knew to really go if she had
None.
trouble.
The only place that she could have went was to homeless shelters, and I called the homeless shelters. I also called the women's battered shelters and told them, look, here's the situation. If you need me to have the detective call, I can do that. And some of them released the information to me that they do not have her. So she wasn't there. I called morgues. I've called hospitals. I mean, I've done all the legwork for the police, basically.
Has it been tough for you, especially because you live in a different state, to have to try and do all that on your own?
It's very tough, and it's very frustrating because it takes a lot out of me because I want to make sure that my parents have closure. And I want our family to have that closure. But it's hard not having closure and being, 500 or 600 miles away and doing everything by phone or online, because you can't make a trip to Amarillo every day because you have obligations in Arkansas.
Now, going back to Charles for a second, obviously he's the last person known to have seen her. Has he cooperated with your family? Has he answered your questions or talked to you to try and say that he hasn't done anything or it wasn't involved?
No. He's actually cussed me out via Facebook and on the phone because I've come right out and asked him, where's she at? What happened? What did you do to her? Where's she at? And he cussed my mom out because she called trying to find out, what really went on, what happened, the real story. And then he changed his phone number, and we've not had any contact with him since. Actually, he changed my sister's phone number because he had her phone using it.
The phone, his phone, was it ever pinged? Do you know? Did they ever try and track his phone since she apparently had his phone? And if so, what were the results of that?
Okay, so his phone got shut off a couple of days after she went missing. So by the time they pinged it, it was already turned off.
And as far as you know, that phone has never been found?
It's never been found. I mean, the clothes that he told us that she had on, we don't even know if that's clothes that she was wearing, to be honest about it. But that's what we put on there because that's what he's telling everybody.
Yeah, so you've got to go by what he's telling you, and unfortunately you have no way of knowing that. You just have to take his word for it. Yes. Has he cooperated? You mentioned earlier that they retracked down his new address and they're going to talk to him again. How has his cooperation been with the police as far as you know?
Well, the one time they brought him in, they read him his rights and he said, no, I'm leaving, and he left. Another time they brought him in, they asked him to take a polygraph and he said no and got up and walked out. So he's not really trying. I mean, they lived together for quite some time, and you would think that somebody that lived together for as long as they had, then he would try to be helping the police find her.
Yeah, not always.
Instead, he's doing just the opposite.
Yeah, it always, I guess you're not supposed to judge their actions of how they seem or how they act following something like this happening, but it's hard not to look at that with some kind of suspicion, because I think most of us would want to help an investigation if our loved one went missing. So when you see someone that sort of is against that or tries to not cooperate, it raises red flags.
Yeah.
So in the past, you mentioned that sometimes Linda would leave after an argument and just walk off, but not any stretch of time like this, obviously. There's no chance in your mind, is there, that she went off and got tired of maybe her life with him and went off and started a new life someplace? Is that even a possibility, or you don't believe that at all?
No, I don't believe that at all, because her money went direct deposit in her bank. She depended on that money every month. And she never showed up to the bank or anything.
Has there ever been any bank activity in that bank account? Is that solely her bank account, or did she share that with Charles?
It was solely her bank account, but she left her debit card, and he knew the PIN number, and he was using it the first couple of days. And he did admit to that.
And I guess at some point they shut that off so he couldn't access it?
Yes.
And as far as you know, was there any activity again on the bank through that bank account after that?
No.
So you would think that even if Linda went someplace and was out there and just didn't want to be found, she would want access to her money, and obviously that's not happening. And she also needed medications, which she doesn't have for her health. So that has to be very concerning for you as well.
Yes.
Well, we mentioned that the police stalled apparently in getting started and wasted that 10-day period until they actually started taking things seriously. Since then, have they developed any leads or done any work? And where does the case stand now today, a year later?
They said that they don't have any leads. The only thing they've been trying to do is just re-question Charles. They said they can't get anybody to talk in that area. So even with putting it on the news and then adding the Crime Stoppers to it, they can't get any tips or leads.
Unfortunately, as you mentioned, being new to the area, it seems hard to think that Linda would have any close ties with anyone where she would go talk to them and maybe discuss problems she was having or being unhappy with her life. Did she have anyone at all that she had made friends with since she moved there that has provided any kind of information or talked to police at all and helped them in any way?
No.
So it was literally just her and Charles there, and that was it. That's all she had. And then she had you and your mom. It sounds like long distance. You weren't right there to be with her in person.
Right.
So I guess in short, a year later, you're struggling to find answers. The police haven't found any clues. They're going by what Charles is telling them, and you're not. It sounds like you definitely don't take everything he's had to say as gospel. What do you hope for to see change in the case? What do you think can make a difference in the case that might help provide some answers here?
I just want that if anybody's seen anything or knows anything, to speak up, because this could be their family. It's not the fact that there's not anyone that doesn't know anything. It's just somebody knows something and won't say
it. And you mentioned earlier, too, there's a Facebook page out there that was started for the case. What's the name of that Facebook page so people can go check it out?
Bring Linda home. Bring Linda home.
And can people provide tips or information there or share what they may have seen or heard?
Yes. They can put anything they want to on there because I can get it to the police.
And hopefully if anyone out there does have any information, even if they heard something and they don't really have any, direct information, just providing a tip or some kind of help might, you never know, it could lead to some kind of answers. Is there any kind of reward being offered in the case?
No, the family wasn't able to do a reward. So there is no reward offered at this point.
And the state or the police weren't able to put
No.
forward any reward either?
They're not.
Yeah. And sometimes, hopefully people do the right thing and come forward with information, but sometimes a reward spurs that. Have you thought about doing any kind of GoFundMe campaign for a reward or anything like that?
I did do that, but I got like $25. So
Wow.
it just didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, and there may be, again, some kind of people that can help you with the right direction of raising money for rewards, people that have dealt with that kind of thing. So if there's anyone out there listening now that has experience in this kind of case and maybe putting rewards together, maybe they'll reach out to you on that Facebook page and offer you some advice, and that might help you down the road to get that reward out there and have people come forward. It sounds like, again, a year later, you're not any closer to finding out the truth here. And you said you want your parents to know what happened and not have to be living without answers. How tough has this been on them?
Oh, my mom it's been really tough. She doesn't really socialize with anybody. She pretty much stays to herself. And my dad he's pretty much in denial. He doesn't want to put it all together and believe that it actually is happening.
It's got to be a tough thing for someone to not know where their child is. Even though it's a grown adult child, it's still their child. So that can't be easy for them. And I'm hoping somehow, some way that your family finds out what happened and you get the truth and are able to have some kind of answers.
Right.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing Linda's story with us. And again, we're hoping that we hear some news that's good, and or at least even if it's not good news, but you get some kind of answers if anything's happened to her. Hopefully, whoever's responsible will be held accountable for that.
Well, I appreciate you taking your time to do this.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Missing Persons. If you can provide any information to help solve the case we discussed in this episode, we hope that you'll contact the appropriate authorities.
We hope that you'll tell your friends about Missing Persons and invite them to listen to the show. Word of mouth will really help us grow. And if you'd like to help us reach new listeners, please be sure to rate and review Missing Persons on the platform you're listening to us now on.
We'd like to tell you a little bit about our Patreon program. If you visit patreon.com/missingpodcast, you can sign up to help this podcast through ongoing monthly support. As a thank you, we'll give you an on-air shout-out, a thank you card and sticker, plus you'll get ad-free early access to every new episode of Missing Persons, as well as any bonus content.
We hope you'll consider supporting the show. Just a reminder, new episodes of Missing Persons drop every other Saturday. If you want to find us on social media, you can search Facebook for Missing Persons Podcast. We're also on Twitter with the handle @missing_pod. And of course, you can always find us on our website, missingpersonspodcast.net. As we wrap up this episode, we'd like to play a preview for you for a true crime podcast called Reverie. Be sure to give it a listen.
I'm Paige, the host of Reverie True Crime. I tell stories of helpless victims, vicious killers, predators watching their prey before they strike, survivors, petty crimes, people we think we know who do the unthinkable, and the dangers that lurk not only in the dead of night, but in plain sight and the light of day. Every once in a while, I'll also tell stories of the frightening paranormal, elusive cryptids, haunted locations, and conspiracies that may be silly or thought-provoking. You can listen to Reverie True Crime wherever you're listening to this podcast. Feel free to follow me on Twitter @Reverie Crime Pod, Facebook, Instagram, and even Tumblr @Reverie True Crime. Remember, stay safe Be aware of your surroundings at all times and take care.